Hello and welcome to Extreme Gameplays, where I play games stylishly. Today I'm gonna be ranking God of War 3 sections from worst to best. I'm gonna be ranking them based on the pacing of everything that is happening, the level design, and the most important one on the list, the combat and the encounters we go through in the said section. Also some other factors as well, so you'll see when I get to the sections themselves. I've divided them into 10 sections, and there is something I need to say about the said sections. Some sections are just not as long as the others. What I've decided to do is link them up with the section prior. The first visit to the caverns will be counted as the City of Olympia section, since it's only one encounter. Same thing with the Zeus boss fight at the end. This is going to be connected to the second visit of the Underworld, where we fight the Cerberus Reader and the Satyrs and all that. With all that explained, please know that I favor combat and replayability the most in any game I play. With that being said, sit back, relax, enjoy the ranking, and make sure to drop your ranking down below in the comments. Let's start. Let's go. Before I start the ranking, just know that I like every single section from God of War 3. It's just that some are better than the others. So starting the ranking, at number 10, we have Olympus Gardens. This place mood and atmosphere can be scary at times. The weather, the mood, the ambience going on, a nice mood. The setting is kinda dead, but it does complement what's happened so far in the story. It gets even worse when you take out Hera and the plants are all ruined even further. Like, it just gets progressively worse. This is what I love so much about this game. With the level design out of the way, we get to the gameplay part. This garden is down here because it is a puzzle for the most part. A very nice puzzle that I like to some extent, even though it's bullshit, but hey, still really nice to solve. Only problem is, on replay walkthroughs, this place takes long. Like, it takes around 10 minutes. Not anything huge, but hey, we have other 9 sections much better than this. The encounters in here are really nice. It is a total of 4 encounters, with one of them being really scary if you don't know the right equipment. Yeah, overall, good, but the other 9 sections are just better. Speaking of the others, let's start with them. We transition to the next one on the list, Poseidon's Chamber. I was conflicted on whether to put this on the number 8 spot or the number 9 spot, but ultimately decided to go with the number 9. This setting in here is cool and unique. There's Poseidon's baby mama in here and some fights that are really good, but that's all I have to say for it. It's a nice section where combat is the most important and upfront thing. Kratos does a pretty dark thing that is clear from a mile away that it's just dark comedy, but I mean, hey. The main focus here is the gameplay, and honestly amazing. We get introduced to the Bronze Talos, and these guys offer a really nice challenge. It's also really good that we can ring out this guy, just send him for a swim and he just dies on impact. It's just so cool. The encounters in here are some of the best and are really good. A short and sweet segment. Not really sweet, what the fuck. But yeah, this one takes the number 9 spot in the ranking. The next section, we have the second visit to the caverns at the number 8 spot. Now this section would have been a little higher on the list if it wasn't for this fucker and his shitty design choices. I'm good at fighting Scorpius, but whenever he kills me with something weird and unexpected and unfair, that's when I lose it. The encounters in here are some of the best encounters, especially the first encounter against the Cyclops enemies. You fight a total of 8 Cyclopses and the fight is brutal. Not going deep into every single encounter, but you know, some more fights here and there that are really nice and creative until we make it to this guy. This guy's flaws need a video on its own. Just a shitty boss and my favorite game of all time. Nothing to look at here. The setting of the caverns and the labyrinth is just so moody and atmospheric. You all know that I'm a huge sucker for atmosphere in God of War. The caverns is beautiful. The sceneries when aligning everything is just so great. The scale of this entire place and how it was built by mortals, just awesome. I love how everything is moving while we are moving, like it's all in game. It is very fantastic, and it takes a number 8 spot. Next up, at number 7, we have the Great War at the start of the game. Now, the starting level of God of War 3 is a very nice balance of hype, good encounters, and setting. It's here, it is the Great War, and it's real. Fighting the Hippocampus bosses prior to finally fighting Poseidon, and my god, what a boss fight he is. The setting is all catching fire at once. Everything is moving too fast, and I freaking love it. They fucking over-delivered with this start in God of War 3. Expectations were high at the end of God of War 2, but god damn, Kratos just snatched that tool out of his kaiju monster. Now we get to the combat of everything in this level, and I say I like it very much. This game had a lot of things to do, a lot of boxes to tick. It ticked every single one of them with this starting level. It was the newest God of War, and it was on the PS3, a new console at the time, and they had to ease people into everything for this brand new God of War game. Yet at the same time, they kept the challenge and fun balance in the entire section. This is why this is my favorite start in all of God of War. It has an encounter this early on that introduces introduces a grunt enemy. No other mainline God of War game does this. We fight a Centaur General in the Tomb of Ares, not 10 minutes into the game. The starting level is good and has variety in what it does more than anything. I love it. Just in the first Hippocampus alone, we have ground combat, ceiling combat, and wall combat. How fucking cool is that? Nice and creative encounters back to back, and finally to wrap it up with a really nice fight against Poseidon. It could have been a little harder, but I understand that this is no longer the PS2 era where they would make everything difficult to attend. Besides, this was the new console and a brand new God of War. It had to kind of introduce new people to the series, and it worked beautifully, honestly. It's still challenging and very hard. I'm thrilled and hyped every time I start a new game for God of War 3. Fighting a fucking centaur this early on. The Great War takes the number 7 spot in today's list. Next up at number 6, we have the Chamber of the Flame. Now I should specify, the Chamber of the Flame section starts from the point where we enter the chamber to hunt Hermes, all the way to smashing Hercules face in. And now let's talk about it. This is a solid section for combat, atmosphere, and everything I can think of. The contrast between the chamber and the outside of the chamber is fucking huge. Just look at how different these two settings are. However, if I'm being real, I of course prefer the chamber. Being inside the chamber is so good. Everything is calm, everything around is beautiful, while the outside is having a heart attack. Inside the chamber, everything just feels so, I don't know, you just feel safe while not actually being safe. Like, you have these walls around you and they're beautiful. It feels like a place I want to walk in someday if it's real. Now with that out of the way, we get to the combat, and oh boy, this is a long one. This entire section has a lot of really good combat scenarios. Main highlights would be the Cyclops encounter after killing Hermes, this encounter where we get introduced to the Sirens, this elevator encounter with the Shieldy Bros and the Gorgon gimmick, very good, a very nice puzzle fight. It kind of reminds me of God of War 1 every time I look at it. And this encounter here with the double wraiths, very good encounters, and some platforming for Hermes, which, come on now. We have two bosses, and they are Hermes and Hercules. Hermes is a nice fun chase that you can play. The only problem I have with this chase sequence is that you're not really in danger for the most part. You're not on your toes with dangerous platforming or anything alike. It does have its moments, but they are extremely easy to go by, like this segment here. Why couldn't they add a Minotaur or two with these undeads to block the way to Hermes or anything? Something risky, something that would kill me. Why didn't they have any wraiths or sirens accompanying these dogs and harpies? Just simple encounters that you can skip. Really? And here's the thing that I hate so much about the platforming in here, and is that the amount of context sensitivity, or you know, like on replay value, there's nothing that demanding of me. Like, there's this wall that I'm climbing right here. This does require skill, otherwise the fire catches you and kills you. There are some teeny bits of movement here and there that you have to do, but other than that, you're just safe for the most part. There's nothing that is falling, that is killing you, that is trying to kill you, that gives the feeling of a combat scenario. Nothing. Point is, there is nothing to adapt to in this platforming, like let's say God of War 1 or some segments in God of War 2. But anyways, finally when you make it to the guy, you can damage him from afar, and that's it. The fight with Hermes is legitimately a very dangerous fight. He can slap you and take a shit ton of damage from you, but he sadly does not react to us hitting him from afar this easily. He does slip in from time to time, but that's it really. I wish he had some goons with him. Hell, I wish Hercules backed him up in here and then made a clutch escape or something as a really nice double boss. You know, speaking of Hercules, his boss fight is one of my favorites of all time. I've spoken enough on why I love this brawl so much in this video on the screen right now, so if you want to check it out after this video. Please keep on watching this video. Don't kill my YouTube. The whole fight is one of my favorite boss fights ever. Using his own goons against him, playing the positioning game against him, playing the careful game at some point, the music, the brutality, the flow of everything, phenomenal brawl, and I love it forever. The Chamber of the Flame is truly one of the best sections in God of War 3, takes the number 6 spot. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we enter the realm of top 5s. This is where things are really tight, so strap up. Coming in at number 5, we have Tartarus. Tartarus has everything in it. It is a very nice section of the game, and it hypes me up every time I visit it. It opens up with a very great encounter against a shit ton of undeads and a Centaur General, and it is overall really good. Using the enemies to destroy him, using other cool cheeky ways to destroy him, and dealing with the others later on, dealing with the said others in cool creative creative ways. Just very good. Very, very good. Followed by another encounter where we face off against a double mini-boss. This is rarely done in God of War. I love it very much. Chimera is my favorite mini-boss. The game flat out said here, have two at once, but not without a really cool twist. There's these pods around you that you can set up to destroy both of them, and it's just so good as an encounter. My god, this is one of my favorite encounters ever. The level of creativity in here is so good. Like, I made this video the other day about trapping one of the chimeras with these explodable pods. It took long to set up, but hey, this level of creativity is what I live for in action games. Then we open up the gates of Tisiphone, and here we stop with the combat and we start talking about the atmosphere and the setting of this place. Before we get to the Pits of Tartarus, this area prior to opening the gate just hits different. Look at all the souls looming around in the background. Just so good. Just kind of like the consequences of killing Hades and what that did. We do see glimpses of the consequences early on, but this right here reminds us that, hey, remember you killed Hades near the start of the game. Hello? The real meat introduces itself whenever we open the gates of Tisiphone to get introduced to the Pits of Tartarus. This is the second best setting in the entire game in my opinion. Just look at how vibrant and saturated everything is. The brightness, the clarity of everything, the sharpness. Feels like I'm describing a painting right now. And the music complements the scale of everything. My god, this section just looks and feels good to play through. You do get some glimpses of the Pits of Tartarus at the start, but whenever you open this gate and enter and just fight in the first encounter, you truly get the feeling of how endless this entire place is, how vibrant, and just the setting is just so great here. And now with all that discussed and out of the way, we go back to the combat. We make our way to Grandpa and fight some enemies on our way there. When we make it to Kronos, it's a level with some very nice encounters sprinkled in throughout. I don't consider Kronos to be a boss, just a level. That first fight, he's just a stage hazard, a good one at that, but you know, I don't consider him to be a boss really. It's just a stage hazard, right? You go through some very good encounters from one place on his body to another, fighting enemies and going through some gimmicky platforming encounters as well. Really good. Nothing much I can say about Tartarus. Is just a complete section with a bunch of great stuff, phenomenal combat, and everything is just working so good. Just awesome. Takes the number 5 spot. Coming up next at number 4, we have the second visit to the underworld. This is near the end game, right before we fight Zeus, and this section just has some of the best quality encounters ever. Couple that with the fight at the end with Zeus, and this section is instantly goated. But let's leave that to the latter part of this section. Let's talk about the feel and atmosphere in here. We of course have been here before, right after Zeus did that triple on Kratos, Gaia, and the player. But throughout the time, we saw hints that we didn't even know were hints. Crystals shining this bright in multiple spots, so later on when the player gets to Cestus and figures out he can break the crystals and everything, it just all becomes clear to them. We will make it back to the underworld. We did see some of these crystals before. Anyway, so you make it back to the underworld for the second time, and this place is just trying its hardest to stop you. I will touch on to the atmosphere in the next section of this game, but you know, in this video, but for now, this is all you need to know. Now I can only talk about the encounters, so I'm gonna leave the whole atmosphere and setting to the next ranking. I don't know how to put this. For now, encounters. As said above, this place is trying to stop you. You drop from the caverns after fixing the labyrinth and arrive at this spot where you're instantly greeted with some of the best and most difficult encounter in God of War. The Hades Cerberus Breeder coupled with some satyrs, and it is one hell of a bloody battle that I will never forget. It's just so great. Like, if you do anything wrong in here, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not using your tools correctly, if you're not using what the game is giving you, this encounter is gonna take you forever. So yeah, let's move on. Moving on, you have this fight that is also nice in the enemies presented. Then an even better encounter with Mr. Satyr trying to stop you again. This is a short segment, but the encounters are just so memorable, especially the Hades Cerberus Beater. Again, if you don't know what you're doing there, your ass is handed to yourself. And then to wrap it all up with us breaking the chain of balance that we've been seeing throughout different spots in the mountain, this huge chain that we saw at the start of the game, one that we see in other spots briefly, one that we fly near, one that we climb. Here we are raking it and flying one more time next to it just to climb it up again and, you know, fuck everything up and fight Zeus at his best. Speaking of Zeus, the boss fight of Zeus is my second favorite boss in God of War, and I feel like you all know why. The variety in the places we fight him in, and finally the climax in Gaia's heart. It's just everything in this last section of the game is just the best action you'll ever see in your life. I have talked in brief detail about Zeus in a lot of my videos, especially this great boss episode. Again, if you want to check it out, please, after the video, you can check it out. The second visit to the underworld all the way to the Zeus boss fight is a goated section, and it takes the number 4 spot of today's ranking. Moving on. But oh, we're not slowly moving on. Right here's where things get crazy. We make it to the 3 big dogs, the top 3. Let's go. Coming in at number 3, we have the underworld again, but this time is the first visit we make it there. Now, I have the first visit to the underworld over the second one because it is longer and it oozes with variety in its encounters and the stuff we acquire and learn. The section starts with us acquiring the best place in the world, and from there it is a very nicely paced section, you know, when considering the things that we get, the equipment. We have the blades in our first magic at first. Move a little further and we have the bow of Apollo, one of the best tools in the world of gaming. Move a little further and you get the rage mode. A little more and you get the claws. Speaking of claws, the section wraps up with another fantastic boss fight against Hades. This fight is so legendary, man. I can't wait to do a great boss episode for him. The encounters are what matter the most for me, and let's go through them now. This entire section both eases in new players and pleases pro players in what it offers. The section introduces new enemies every step of the way. It is that type of section where everything calms down and we get introduced to the real bread of the game, just like God of War 2's Mount Etna and just like Athens in God of War 1. We get introduced to Minotaurs, Gorgons, Talos enemies, Cerberus and the ride mechanic, explodable pods, double Cerberus mini boss, and many cool encounters that mix stuff up together. It's just so good. Like, if you don't know what you're doing in these encounters, you're not gonna come out satisfied with the last fight. Like, you're gonna be bruised up. Getting creative with encounters is all that matters, and this section asks for your creativity. Just a very good section overall. Now, with the combat and gameplay out of the way, let's come back to the original subject that I left in the section that I ranked prior to this. Let's start back with the atmosphere, mood, and setting. This place is awesome. The moment you reach it, you know this place is unforgiving as it takes away all your tools. The scenery alone is fantastic and shows the scale of the entire place. Mortals who just died because of what you did are falling here. If you stop and observe, you can see the judges of the underworld from here. Hades' palace, the 3 judges, and some really nice glimpses of Tartarus that you will visit way later on in the game. Messages on the ground that describe some other people's stories, and they can be good to read from time to time. The entire place is eerie with lost souls, and later on humans that get transformed into lost souls, and finally lost souls transforming into monsters. A truly great way of storytelling. Seeing these normal mortals transforming into the monsters you kill throughout the journey is haunting. It's kind of like God of War 1, where you learn that the undead soldiers that you've been fighting this long are mostly Spartans that you fight. It's mostly warriors. They have a very sad fate where they turn back to undeads and they keep on fighting even after death. It is just so sad. Alexa, play Despacito. With that out of the way, we go through this entire place, other than Tartarus that gets saved up for later. Indoors, outdoors, just a great section overall. And this time the mood and setting gets applied even further to the point where it's heavily prevalent in the boss fight of the section, Hades. Have you guys fought Hades? Hades, nuts fit in your mouth, I'm sure! This guy's boss fight, man, oh my god. In the arena, you feel trapped with him. You don't have the sense of freedom in your surrounding that you had when fighting Albric. In here, you truly feel trapped, and the music gets haunting from time to time as well, just completely absorbing you in the setting in here. It's a dark, small arena that you fight this guy in. It starts looking even better when you break the wall and see his throne at a certain point. The whole setting applies perfectly to him, and it's simply the best. The whole setting applies perfectly to the boss fight as well, and this is just so good. I mean, just like, look at this arena and how dark everything is around you. The only thing that's bright in here is just Hades. He's lighting the way through for the most part. When you take him out and go back to the outside, you change the balance of the entire place. Turned hell into an even worse hell with all the souls free to roam the place forever with no ruler. It's just, look at this setting, man. Look at it. The first visit to the underworld is literally perfect. At some point it was my favorite for like 2 days until I switched back to the original favorite, but hey, this section is perfection and it takes all the boxes. Takes the number 3 spot. Next up, at number 2, we have the Labyrinth. This section of the game, when you align the labyrinth and fix it together, is perfection overload. So, you just fixed the labyrinth, correct? Congratulations! Now you have to go through its traps, encounters, and puzzles. I fucking love this section so much. It would have been my #1 spot, but it's just that the #1 spot just has the edge over it by a little bit. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. And I love this section so much because it takes us back to our temple days. Traps, puzzles, encounters that are challenging and fun. Count me in. Traversing from one box to another shows us the magnificence of the place. The score is putting everything into your ears as well. My god, it's just so good. And then finally, after besting all the perfect encounters, traps, and puzzles, we rise up to the top of the labyrinth and it's just, oh my god. It's a Rubik's Cube, but just look at the scale of this thing. After aligning all of this and surviving all the challenges, the traps and all that, what a sight. Just gives me the feels of God of War 1 when you aligned the temple completely and you fixed everything in the temple, survived all the traps and all the crazy ass encounters, but in a shorter, smaller scale with this labyrinth. It's just so good. And now we finally get to the meat of things. This section of the game is no joke. It is filled with challenging encounters that are all fun to master and return to. The level of creativity in this section is off the roof. You start with this encounter that can go very wrong if not managed correctly. You are miles better off killing both the Taluses at once so that, you know, you're free to fight the Cerberus alone. Then go ham with him and wreck the room. Proceed further to the next room and it's a room that eases you into the puzzle and trap element of this place. Needs patience but not a whole lot of challenge. Next room is a puzzle that has some hidden chests and stuff in it. After that you make it to one of the best encounters in the series. Spikes coming out of the ground, enemies are spawning, 2 hard waves that can be challenging if unmanaged and all that. The second wave especially takes a lot of notes for being very fun and challenging. This one boosts sub difficulty greatly. I love this encounter very much. They took the Spikes room from God of War 2 and pushed it by a 10. Just a very nice encounter. My god, I love it. Then after all that, we rescue Pandora, and thank god it's not a protection mission where she has health and all that bullshit. I would have cried if that was the case. Thank you, God of War. I knew you wouldn't do that to me. From here on, things pick up. There's this encounter with Gorgons and Undead that isn't all that challenging, but still a really nice brawl against a couple of enemies. It is fun. It is good. Then comes in a rescue mission, but in a different way. This first one is not all that much challenging, but it still is good and it eases you into the next rescue mission that is the real dealing. This is really good and the stakes are high. It feels like an encounter on its own. You have to do a lot of your movements masterfully to successfully rescue her. Platforming, and if you're late, she dies. And if you don't know what to move, how to move, where to go, you die. As said before, you have to do this correctly or you're gonna die. It is one of my favorite rescue missions. And finally comes the last encounter where it's constant waves of enemies that are all dangerous to fight. My god, where do I start with this encounter? This fight lasts very long and it's one continuous shot of an encounter. No chests to heal up, no nothing, just you and your resource management. You need magic? Grab sirens. You need health? Grab minotaurs. You're better off knowing the spawn rules in here to make things easier on yourself, or else this whole thing turns into one hell of a carnagey unmanaged. Please know the spawn rules in here to make things a little easier on yourself, or else the encounter quickly turns into carnage. Know that you have to slowly drain the undeads to spawn the next grunt or big enemy. Please be careful because the fight turns into shit if you don't know how to manage it. You have shieldy boys that turn into normal undeads after their shield gets broken. You have sirens, you have wraiths, and the strongest minotaur in the game. These guys like to block, so be careful. This is flat out one of, if not my favorite encounters ever. The only encounter that has a slight edge over it would be the God of War 2 Loom Chamber near the end, but hey, fuck it. These two are both gauntlets with no checkpoints and I love both of them equally. It's like, I don't know. For the longest, I loved Loom Chamber and God of War 2 the most, but now I kind of see that and this encounter right here as equals. They're just very good. Very good! The Labyrinth section is yet another perfect section of the game. Takes the #2 spot. And now we're finally here. We have arrived to my favorite section in God of War 3. And man, isn't it pretty obvious? Aphrodite's bed. The City of Olympia is the best section in the entire game. No questions asked, no explanations needed. The City of Olympia, I want to start by getting the setting, atmosphere, mood, and all that good jazz out of the way. After going through this eerie Hades portion and staying there for so long, we step foot into the City of Olympia and oh my god, the contrast to what we just came out of. The sky, the sceneries, the setting, the liveliness of everything, the movement of everything, the life in this place, and finally the setting and how the enemies complement it is just so good. Everything is bright, everything is hype, and everything is moving too fast. The brightness behind every corner is broken up slightly by us entering indoor sections, and it's just even the indoors are just looking very good. Like look at this hallway. Oh my god. The sky is beautiful, the setting is amazing, everything is so bright and beautiful. My god, all up until we kill Helios and the entire setting is fucked because of this event. From this point onwards, it's raining until the end of the game. That's it. After all the beauty we got to see, this happens and crushes it all for us and the entire world. We then enter a cave that leads to the Chain of Balance, and it's called the Path of Eos. In here, the setting is unlike any we've seen before. Just a nice blue filter on the entire place, and it just looks beautiful. This awesomeness all the way until we reach the caverns, and by this point I have explained the setting of this place. The caverns just looks very beautiful. The setting and mood of the City of Olympia section is unmatched. It looks so beautiful and colorful. Really awesome, and the only contenders would be the Great War at the start of the game or the Pits of Tartarus. Nothing else competes. And now, we get to the meat of things. Combat! 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 This right here is specifically why the City of Olympia is my favorite section in the entire game. The combat scenarios in this section, the enemies, the arenas, the fun and fair challenges, the options, the creativity, the unintended cases, the music, the combination of the enemies, it just never ends. The first encounter already is really good. You get introduced to legionnaires that have armor while attacking, and then some dogs join in to mix things up with their dangerous dodging ability and their grabs and all that. A lot of stuff can mess you up in this encounter, in this first encounter alone. What makes the City of Olympia so great is the arenas you fight in as well. Huge open arenas allowing for a lot of creativity, such as ring outs and using the environment around you, using barriers that the enemies will not cross. Is just like, it is very good. And this first encounter has all of that. Huge open arena, and you can ring out enemies for an easy kill. The enemies alone in this encounter are not dangerous. What makes them dangerous and challenging is who they're combined with. You really have to know your crowd controlling moves, and this goes for other encounters as well, because when you really get approached by all these dogs and all these legionnaires, you really have to use your tools greatly, otherwise they pile up on you and fuck you up. And this is just the first encounter. The next encounter is a whole vibe on its own, allowing for a ring out, smart play, and experimentation. Also taking caution because the stage hazard can mess you up if it hits you. Helios can be a little dangerous all up until he gets the squishy washy treatment from Perseus. This encounter is also another really great encounter for the ring outs it allows and the fun you can have with the enemy type. Then joins in the Centaur General. The fight gets better, and honestly, what else can I say? Try standing on this ledge and wait for him to rush towards you so that you can ring him out, and that is the best ring out! You are ringing out the Centaur General! Unintended, I know, but this is why old action games are just so great. And then there's a cool little trick that I'm gonna share with all of you guys right now, and it happens after you clear this encounter with the Centaur General. There's a secret encounter in here. If you leave at least one of these civilians alive and go back to the same area you just left after clearing the Centaur General encounter, there will be a secret encounter with 3 legionnaires. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but my god, I just love it. And then we get introduced to the best mini boss in history. And this fight is just... it's just, okay, I'm talking too much. You guys know why this guy is so cool. Point is, this section is the best for what it does with the encounters. The freedom it allows. You can either use this spot to destroy everyone in this hallway or go nuts to butts and fight all of them head on without that explodable pot. Encounters have variety in what they offer, from stage hazards to environmental stuff to ring outs to getting creative to breaking the game's rules. The whole section allows you to go all out. Couple it with the first visit to the caverns, which I decided to combine with this section. It is literally perfection. Like, not a single section in any other God of War gets better than this, in my opinion. This whole thing is a protection mission in disguise. You have to protect the chain. Everything is allowed and there is no limitation to what you do. A lot of enemies get thrown at you and the encounter goes down as one of the best in all of God of War. It's just one continuous encounter with no chests and nothing. You just have to play with your cards. I should also talk about the choreography of this encounter, and my god, this is how you do it. This is zoom outs in an encounter done right and not whatever the fuck this is. 10 out of 10, man. This entire section. Usually I count the City of Olympia starting from this point all the way until we reach the Chain of Balance, but in this video I had to include this caverns section as well, and honestly nothing to regret here. Now the City of Olympia also does something else that I like very much other than combat. There's this Icarus vent that requires skill, and you know, it's a nice short segment that switches up the gameplay, and you all know how much I like it when games are gamey. And then it's followed up by one of my favorite platforming sections in all of God of War. Hell, this actually might be my favorite platforming section. Just feels great replaying playing this and getting better and better at it. Wall combat in God of War 3 is something else, man. It is so good to traverse between these things, trying to not take damage and all that. It's like, it's so fun. It constantly requires my skill. Like, I wish Hermes had something like this with his platforming, some challenge rather than the amount of context sensitivity that we get in there. The City of Olympia is one complete package, a perfect section for everything concerned in a game. The pacing, setting, and combat is just phenomenal. Takes the #1 spot as the best section in the entire game. The Labyrinth comes extremely close, do remember this, but hey, I still have this section over the Labyrinth. So yeah, this video took long. Please make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it. These are the types of videos that I make. If you love God of War and Devil May Cry content, you know where to find me. I also stream a lot if you're interested in that. I stream a lot of challenge running for God of War and Devil May Cry and some Resident Evil, actually only Resident Evil 4 if you're interested in that. And so yeah, leave your ranking of these sections that I just ranked today. It has been your Extreme Gamer Zesty. Peace.